Newly crowned Czech champion Jiri Prochazka was set to defend his belt against Glover Teixeira at UFC 282 when he sustained a major injury during training. The samurai vacated his belt for the sake of the division and wanted to set an example for the next generation. Let's take a look at how the now former champ is doing and where the division goes from here. First and foremost, what happened to the samurai? Prochazka informed the world about his orthopedic shoulder injury via social media last week. The champion was adding the finishing touches to his training for the upcoming match against Glover when things went horribly wrong. As of now, he has to undergo surgery, after which he will need at least 6 months of recovery time before he can fight again. Things like this happen all too often. Fighters push themselves beyond their body limits in training camps. It's rare for a professional MMA fighter to walk into the cage without some kind of injury. However, Jiri is very unorthodox in his training regime. He often trains at home, partaking in unique training exercises that he designs for himself. The training clearly pays dividends when you look at Jiri's 13-fight win streak, but at such a high level of competition, the risk of injury is definitely higher at a home gym. Next up, Jiri vacates the belt. Credit goes where credit is due. Prochazka did the honorable thing in vacating his belt. It would be incredibly unfair to the litany of challengers in the roster to hold the division up for anywhere from 6 to 10 months. Times have changed. Champions are expected to prolifically defend their belts, and champions like Adesanya and Usman defend their titles up to 3 times a year. So Jiri decided to let the division flow naturally while he healed and then returned to take back the belt. Not only is this an honorable decision on Jiri's part, but it also makes the most practical sense. Prochazka is young and undefeated, a genuine rising superstar. He has a long career ahead of him and needs to ensure he doesn't burn out his body. He won't even really lose his belt. It's like Jones being stripped of the title. Even if he's not the champion, he's the champion. Prochazka is pretty much guaranteed a main event headliner when he returns, and his consideration of the way the UFC likes to do business means they, too, will take care of him. Probably buy a share in the PPV sales, and if Jiri wins, then two-time champ sounds better for his legacy anyway. Now for Prochazka's mindset, an inspiration for new fighters. The samurai truly lives up to his name, unbreakable in his mental fortitude in the face of whichever challenge he faces. But in a tornado-like elbow against one of the best strikers in the division, or submitting a BJJ legend for the belt, Jiri finds a way out. In the face of adversity, the former champ spoke of his infinite motivation and spirit consciousness. The Czech national knows in his soul that he's the champion and will conduct himself accordingly. He recognizes his need to rest, and if someone captures the title in the meantime, he will enjoy the performance as a fan of the sport. However, once healed, he's coming back for his belt with a vengeance. Jiri wants to lead by example and show the next generation never to lose sight of their goals and trust in the longevity of their journey. Jiri wants to be the best, to beat the best, to not only be a champion, but the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. To that end, no obstacle is insurmountable, and he promises to come back an even better fighter. We, for one, wish the inspirational fighter the speediest of recoveries. Finally, where the division goes from here. Jiri may have done the honorable thing by vacating, and the UFC tried to keep the division flowing, but it didn't really work out. The matchmakers found a replacement in top contender Magomed Ankalaev, a Russian phenom on a tear through the division that most recently knocked out Anthony Smith in the second round.
Piston-like left hand of Ankalaev.
Magomed Ankalaev trying to get Kudelov out of there! Unconscious!
While it's not the fight we were expecting, especially for the undisputed championship, nobody can deny Ankalaev's right to a title shot. He was going to be next anyway. Well, nobody except former champion Glover Teixeira. The Brazilian did not accept the replacement fight against Magomed, and we were afraid the entire event would fall through. But to the rescue came former champion Jan Blachowicz. The Polish veteran has been hungry to regain his belt and was ready to take on anyone at any time. And UFC 282 headliner features Ankalaev versus Blachowicz. It's been a while since lightweight has had such a deep roster of contenders that can be matched up with anyone to produce an exciting title fight, and we can only be glad for the times we live in. Regardless of who wins, the winner may fight Teixeira or wait for Jiri to return. We're all set for a bloody scramble for gold in the UFC's second largest weight class. One division lower, another war for the championship rages on between two longtime rivals in Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. With a keen eye for the game and some free time on his hands now, Prochazka weighed in on the rivalry. Let's take a look. Jiri Prochazka explains how Israel Adesanya can beat Alex Pereira in a potential rematch. Let's start off with Jiri's advice for Adesanya. If this isn't clear about Prochazka through the way he expresses his approach to fighting and his unique training regime already, Jiri's warrior philosopher, who also has a very observant eye on fighters. He feels Izzy could have prevailed against his nemesis Pereira had he not eased up in the later rounds. Jiri pointed out how this has been the year of fifth-round championship upsets. Kamaru lost his belt to Usman in the fifth, Adesanya to Alex, and Jiri himself won his belt by choking out Glover in the fight's final minutes.
It's there! He's got it! He got the hand down.
He got the hand.
No, but they still got it again. That's it.
It seems to the light heavyweight that the fighter who can carry more motivation and ignore the mental fatigue of a 25-minute fight is the one who wins. This idea may seem abstract at face value, but if you look at how Alex went into the fifth round, it makes sense. The Brazilian knew he was losing on the cards, had never been in a fight this long, and was quite fatigued. However, the vengeance with which he left this stool to meet Izzy for the final round could only come from a man who believes he will win. If Izzy gets a rematch, which he most probably will, he has to find the motivation he had in his war against Kelvin Gastelum and fight to the last second. Moving on at 3-0 against Pereira, will this work for Israel? Not many people doubt Adesanya's right to a rematch, considering his long and dominant reign over the division. But there are quite a few who think Pereira just has Israel's number. In the most recent fight, he proved that his gas tank isn't a problem despite the monstrous weight cut he goes through, and it will only get better with experience. The same goes for Alex's MMA skill set. He's new to the sport and has infinite potential to build a well-rounded game. Additionally, he's one of the few people in the world who can stand out in front of Israel Adesanya. He's even outpointed the Nigerian in a straight kickboxing fight when he earned the unanimous decision victory the first time the two fought. Of course, we don't have to mention the nuclear left hand that left Adesanya stiff as a board in their second fight. Izzy may have been winning the two more recent fights decisively, but that doesn't change the fact that Alex was able to knock him out both times. Whatever people say, Israel has made his intentions to come back for his belt clear. There's no denying that Israel looked like the better fighter at UFC 281, and Alex may be champion, but he's only had 3 fights in the promotion. Kickboxing and MMA are very different sports, and it's easy to see some minor game plan tweaks completely changing the outcome for Izzy versus Alex 4. Finally, could Adesanya move up if all else fails? At this point in their rivalry, we have to seriously consider Adesanya coming up short against Pereira and finding himself in a position as stagnant as Colby Covington's in the welterweight division. If we knew Adesanya, we would want to set on a different adventure instead of fighting contenders he's already beaten. Stylebender has dipped his toe into the light heavyweight division before, unsuccessfully, against Jan Blachowicz. But we feel a committed move up would be very different from a champ-champ campaign. For one, Adesanya has clearly worked very hard on his ground game and introduced Pereira to his new arsenal of ground and pound in their most recent fight. This is a direct lesson learned from Adesanya's loss to Jan, who seemed to keep Izzy on the ground with impunity. When Stylebender went for champ-champ, he also chose to maintain his middleweight physique and fight heavier men. If he moves up completely, he could bulk up for power and wrestling ability that's more suited for a light heavyweight. That's a wrap for this video. Drop a message for the injured champion in the comments below, and let us know if you think Jan will win back his belt or if Ankalaev will prove too much for the Polish fighter. Hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more MMA content.